Hi, I'm Cindy Castell, and I'm the iTech coach at Whittier. And I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what that means.
I'm Paige Littlefield, and I'm the iTech coach here at Norman High School.
And I'm Rob Miles, and I'm the iTech coach at Irving Middle School.
So iTech coach is a new position that started last year when they started the one-to-one initiative here in Norman Public Schools. And there's one of us stationed at each secondary school, and then we also work with 3 additional elementary schools as well. So our role is to go into classrooms and work with teachers and with students, integrating the technology in effective ways. So for example, if a teacher is doing a research unit, we might go in and do a side-by-side teaching and use the integrative tech tools like Google Keep or tools that they can use to share their learning with others with the MacBook. We also do a lot of planning with teachers, really looking at technology being used when it is the best tool. We are not the people that are saying technology is always the right tool. We definitely don't believe that. All of us are former classroom teachers, and we know that having a large selection of tools to work with is what's best for kids. So we definitely encourage that as well. We are also supported by other people in the district. We have our tech services department, and we're lucky in each of our secondary buildings to have a tech service representative that help us with making sure everything is running properly throughout the day. That includes all the network pieces as well as all the MacBooks. And so if your student ever has an issue with their MacBook at school, they can go into the library. We all have a tech bar. You can see right back here, there's a tech bar here at Norman High, but all libraries have somewhere in their library a tech bar where they can go and get help at any time with their MacBook. And we definitely want the kids to know and parents to know that if anything happens, we're there to help with that. So we've had some kids get a little bit nervous about if something breaks on their computer that they're going to get in trouble, and that's not the case. We really want to help them get their MacBook up and running again. So it's something good to share with them as well. The Norman Public School iTech initiative actually started many years ago, and the first part of the initiative was bringing technology into the classrooms, and that started with having an upfront screen and Mobies where teachers could walk around and kids could also write on the Mobies onto the boards. And then in 2014, the second iTech initiative was a bond issue passed by the Norman voters, and that was the one-to-one piece where all students in grades 6 through 12 would be issued a one-to-one device, and then the elementary classes would have more access to technology. So that started last year. So the reason that this was set up, one of the biggest was to close the digital divide. We knew that some students had full access at home to everything they needed with technology, and others didn't. So this really levels that playing field where all kids can do research. They can have right at their fingertips what we used to have to wait for a cart to come around and do. And so it really makes that something available to all students at all times. I already kind of talked about the second 2 bullets, but it also promotes 21st century readiness. So we all know today when we go to work, we are communicating with technology often. We are using technology to share ideas with each other, and our students need to have those skills. We often talk about kids being really tech savvy, but they are very tech savvy at a lot of things that they know, and we need them to know tech tools that they're going to use in the workplace. So we do use tools like docs and email and PowerPoint, or we also use Google Slides, which is another form of PowerPoint. And then they learn all other kinds of tools that they pick up very quickly because they aren't afraid of the technology. But it's definitely technology they can use to communicate ideas. This also expanded educational opportunities. We have programs in our district, one in particular, guided inquiry, is part of our Norman Public Schools initiative, where students, based on curriculum, will get a little background information, and then they begin to ask their own questions and what they want to know about a particular item or issue. So this really expands that opportunity for students to go out and find information that they want to know and bring that to the curriculum that we know that they're going to need. So again, the MacBook makes that more possible every day. It also extends learning beyond the classroom. We know that a growth area that we have is that not all students have Wi-Fi at home, but we do have the ability to help students download things at school. So when they do go home, they have that access to that. And we have some devices they can check out in the libraries if they do need Wi-Fi for a particular project or something. So we definitely want them to have that learning going on as they need it. So ultimately, the device is there to help students innovate, help students collaborate, and really grow in being able to use those skills that they're going to need at work and in life. So that's really what the iTech initiative is.
Hi. Okay, so August of last year, we did something that you will find almost nowhere else in the United States. We took an incredibly powerful technology tool and we handed it to sixth graders. Unheard of. Most places around the United States, sixth graders get iPads or they get Chromebooks, which are incredibly limited in what they can do. We gave them a full-up MacBook Air and said, learn. There were some problems with that. We realized through inputs from parents, inputs from teachers, inputs from students, that there were things that we could have done differently. And so this is an example, you being here tonight is an example of one of the things that we changed from last year. We decided we needed to do better at helping everybody figure out what's going on with this. One of the components of the input that we got from parents was they were concerned that they could not regulate their students' use of that MacBook because it's school property and you need it for homework, so if they're misusing it, well, I can't ground them from that, it's not. And so we got together and we put our heads together and we figured out ways to kind of everybody work together to manage this. And if you look at this sheet, this is the parent-student laptop agreement. And it's kind of what we worked out. First of all, you do not have to send this back to school. This is strictly between you and your student. We don't have anything to do with this. This is for you to sit down and kind of hash out some basics about how the MacBook's supposed to be used. I will tell you, as a middle school teacher, most of them believe that the MacBook is to be used to play games. It's either to play games or to message people via social media. And in reality, it's an educational tool. It really, really is. It's not good at games. It's not built to play games. It's built to create and to produce things, not really to play games. That being said, it's kind of, at school, we try to make sure they understand what the use of it is. So when you get home and you sit down with your student, if you want to go through this with them and kind of lay down some guidelines and help them figure out what's acceptable and what's not. There's a lot of things on here, how much they can use it after they're done with their homework, what they can use it for. If you want to allow them to go onto social media sites, that is perfectly fine. One of the other sessions tonight was healthy screen time, and that's part of that whole, playing games is a good way to release, the tension of the school day and all of that, but there is kind of, I've had to learn myself that there's a limit to how much gaming I should do. There are some other things on this contract about, oddly enough, charging the MacBook. One of the biggest problems we've run into in the classroom is students show up 8 o'clock in the morning, their MacBook's not charged. And our classrooms weren't built with technology in mind, so there's not a whole lot of outlets to plug in 32 MacBooks and get them all charged up. What we recommend as iTech coaches is you don't even bring the charger to school. Find a place at night, plug it in, kind of develop a routine where you plug it in every night and leave the charger at home. A couple reasons for that. The chargers are expensive. They run about $80 at Best Buy. They are not covered under the optional protection plan, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And students lose them. Walking down the hall the other day in the 6th grade hall, there was one just laying in the middle of the hallway. It fell out of somebody's backpack, and they, of course, didn't notice, so I picked it up, took it to the tech desk, and hopefully the student got it back. So we really encourage you to sit down and kind of go through this and kind of figure out what you find acceptable. If you need to ground them from their MacBook, please do. We can find other ways to get them their work. They can get a loaner in the classroom, they can get a Chromebook in the classroom and work in the classroom. There are ways for them to get their work done. Part of this whole parent-student agreement, what kind of ties in with it is this, which is called the acceptable use policy. Acceptable use policy, oddly enough, you have seen it before. You may not remember. It was one of the online documents in enrollment, and it's not one of those ones where you have to actually read it. You can just click a button, say you've read it, and move on. It's a lot of legal terminology. It is really a contract. But for us, the 3 bullets in the middle are the ones we're worried about. Filtered internet. At school, it's filtered internet. There is some filtering hardwired into the programming that we've installed. And varying levels of access. One of the other classes was levels of access, and that is a developing situation here in Norman. We are trying to put some levels of access into place, and as the software on the MacBook gets updated, we'll be able to update those levels of access, and we will keep you informed on what's going on with that. Opportunity to use electronic devices for the purposes of increasing educational experiences. I spent all day today in a geography classroom helping students learn new tools to do the things that they used to do, cutting out magazines and gluing them to poster board. Different ways to present and to develop their educational abilities. And finally, students are required to return all loaned equipment when requested in the same condition it was issued to the student, minus normal wear and tear. I encourage you to get a case or one of the hard shells that clip onto it, or something. I have a messenger bag that I carry mine around in, something to kind of protect that outer shell. Understand that unless it's lost or stolen, pretty much we expect normal wear and tear, dings on the edges and things like that. I also recommend that you those cases or stickers to help students identify which computers are theirs. Not that we have a problem with theft, because everybody has a MacBook. Nobody needs to, but when all the students get together and work in a group, figuring out whose is whose can be tricky at times. Other than that, if you have any questions about the AUP, we'll be happy to answer them when we get done with this session.
All right, so Mr. Miles mentioned if the MacBook is lost or stolen, and that kind of falls under the umbrella of the optional protection plan, which you have a copy of in that stack of papers we gave you. So I'll just talk about a couple important things. So the optional protection plan is to cover accidental damage to the MacBook. It becomes important if the MacBook is lost, stolen, or damaged beyond repair. If a student comes in to see us and they have like a simple damaged display, we would send that to technology services to be fixed. We would issue the student a loaner device and then when it comes back fixed, we would swap that out and they would get their MacBook back. It's no issue at all. But if the device can't be fixed, or if there's no device because it was lost or stolen, that's when the optional protection plan would become important, because it's designed to limit the liability and responsibility for a district-owned device. So the optional protection plan is a yearly purchase. It's $50 per student. You can purchase it at your student site. You could do them all at one site. If you have multiple students, you can pay for them all in one place if you'd like to. If you have free and reduced lunch, it's $25 rather than $50. Or if you have more than 2 students in the district, after you purchase 2, everyone after that is also $25. It's not like a gotcha situation. It's just our way of trying to help provide some peace of mind and to mitigate the responsibility if there was something unfortunate to happen. There's no time limit on when you would need to purchase an optional protection plan. You can purchase it at any time, up to and including when you need it. So just kind of know that that option is available should you need it. So some other important things to know are that the optional protection plan doesn't cover the charger, because the charger is considered consumable. That's why Mr. Miles talked about it's so important to leave those chargers at home. It just covers the device. Something else that's important to know is that if your student needs their device to go to technology services to be fixed, if they have the protection plan, then their loaner device will be a MacBook. It'll be the same thing that they already had. If they don't have the protection plan, their loaner device, kind of depending on availability, might be a MacBook, but it might also be like a Chromebook or a smaller MacBook or something else, just depending on what's available. Okay? And then we have a slide about Google Classroom. Do you want to say anything about Google Classroom?
Does anybody have any questions about Google Classroom? Are you familiar with it? I'm going to engage the audience before I start talking about it. Well, have you
I
seen
don't know about it.
Okay, so Google Classroom is something most of our teachers use, and it's a learning management system. So teachers can put their assignments in Google Classroom. They can pose questions to students in Google Classroom. And so once the teacher opens up a class, they give the students a code. So the students put the code in. That's how the class is populated. After that happens, then they can go in and see assignments as they come up. So I'm not going to say all assignments that every teacher does that they're always on Google Classroom, but I would say that it's becoming more the rule. So most of that's right at your students' fingertips. So one thing it really helps with is paper usage. So when teachers go in to put in an assignment, if they have something that students are working on, they can actually tell Google Classroom to make a copy for each student.
A digital copy.
And it goes out to each student. And one of the things I love as a mother is my son had a really hard time putting his name on his paper. It automatically puts their name on the paper. So that's no longer an issue. And then getting it to the basket was another issue. So now all students have to do is if the assignment is done on Google Classroom, they can hit turn in right there. Teachers can give feedback to students. They can make comments and share back and forth with students. And they can also do quizzes through Google Forms. And teachers really like that because if it's a objective test, it grades it for them. So then they just have to hit a button and it sends the grade back to the students. So a lot of automation here that makes communication with students and teachers a lot easier. So as far as a parent side of this, sometimes we have parents request that they can be in the classroom, and that causes an issue because if anybody who's in the classroom, if there's an assignment made, then it requests an assignment from that person. So that doesn't really work.
And you have to have an education account. So just on a regular Gmail Classroom is not available. It has to be like a Google Apps for Education account.
Great point. So that's not always possible, but you can ask teachers to put you in it for a guardian summary, and you can just send an email. Once one teacher does it, every Google Classroom that your child is enrolled in, will come up on that summary. So the way that works is after a teacher invites you, it sends you an email. And with that email, it'll have you accept that invitation or not. And it also asks you for preferences like a daily summary or a weekly summary. And in the summary, it won't show you the assignments, but it will say this assignment is coming up, or this assignment is missing. So you get that kind of information. So if you want to see the actual assignment, I recommend, during homework time, sitting down with your child, and they can pull that up and show that to you right away. So it's, most of their work is right there where they can see it. It's nice too because it's not always just a worksheet type situation. Teachers can embed videos. They can use other web tools that create different types of assignments. So it really makes an interactive platform.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There are a lot of web apps that we use. Here, I'll move over so you don't have to move the camera. There are a lot of web apps that we use that link directly to Google Classroom. So I can tell the web app Newsella, for example, that takes news articles and puts them on a scalable reading level. So students, no matter what their reading level, can actually read newspaper articles. And I can say, connect with my Google Classroom, and it automatically takes my students from there, drops it in the web app, and then when a student completes it on the web app, it tells Google Classroom, hey, they did it. And so it's an amazing tool. And so I make an assignment in Google Classroom. It creates an individual assignment for your student in their own personal folder on Google Drive that nobody else can touch. It can't get lost. When they hit turn in, it comes directly to me. I can even set it up where an email comes in and says, whoo, Timmy turned in this paper, and I can go check it and make sure it's done. I can grade it right there in Google Classroom. It is, for me, it was semi-revolutionary because I didn't have to worry about taking 120 papers and getting them all paper clipped together, and it was fantastic.
Time to pass them back out.
Exactly. I strongly encourage you to sit down with your students and say, hey, open up Google Classroom. I want to see what it looks like so you know what they're seeing. And then I really encourage you to sign up for the Guardian email because it just says, hey, Timmy's missing this one assignment that was due yesterday. And you can go, hey, poke, poke. And it's the beginning of the communication cycle. So.
In terms of having a teenager and keeping them organized, which is like no small feat, it has a to-do list. So if your student goes to their to-do list in Google Classroom, it shows all their assignments for all their classes. So that's handy. You can look at that with them. And it also, if they use Google Calendar, it creates a calendar for that class. So it will show, the assignments will show up on that calendar also. So if you need help kind of figuring that out, your school's iTech coach is the person who could help you with that.
And you can put that Google Calendar on an iPhone or an Android phone, and they can track. I mean, it's just accountability city. There's no way to get away from the fact that you've got something coming up in Miss Littlefield's English class.
Oh, I'm sorry, I lost our presentation. Okay, so we're happy to answer any questions that you have. We also would love some feedback from you. So there's a feedback form for you to fill out just about your experience here at the Parent Academy. You can scan the QR code, which there's one right there, and there's also a Google shortener you could go to. But what questions do we have? We're happy to answer. Yes?
So on the Guardian Google account, will it also tell you, like, is it an accumulated average of, like, this is the grade that they're sitting at right now?
Google Classroom, unfortunately, doesn't talk to Parent
Okay.
Portal. They just they just don't work together in the way we wish they would.
Gotcha.
So it's still important to have Parent Portal and to check Parent Portal.
Got it. Okay.
Someday, we hope.
Yes, that would be awesome.
What
So
other
for
questions?
those that are Windows, and really truly like Mac is like, we're working on it. Do you guys do parent tech like support so that we can support our kids? Like how, I mean, I know that's great that y'all are here, but the parents are also going to be at home too, just kind of going, what in the world if they don't know Mac? do y'all offer that?
We are having, at Irving, we're having those discussions.
Okay.
And we have actually had those kinds of discussions. Having a night where we talk about Google Classroom and a night where we talk about actually manipulating math. There are dozens, and I mean dozens of YouTube tutorials out there. If it's simply,
stuck at
how do I
home.
get a Mac to do something? I mean,
But that
And on the Norman Public School website as
and on
well.
the normal.
So what, just curious, is it because, like, Mac is the newest?
I'm
I'm just curious why.
Why
Yeah.
Apple, is that what you're asking? So there are a couple of reasons. It's a terrific tool for creating and producing work, so that's one reason. And also the accessibility tools for students who have any kind of challenges are just like kind of unparalleled.
They're also, they did a lot of durability testing. I know a lot of districts use Chromebooks as their one they use. These are much more durable, and also the ability to shut them down, make them like a brick if someone steals them, so like they did with iPhone several years ago. So it makes them not as attractive to steal. So there were several factors that went into that being the choice.
And there's a lot of support when it comes to Apple for education.
Oh, yeah.
They came and did a ton of training with teachers, and just wasn't anyone else that could provide that amount of support like after the purchase happened.
So for those of us that are like Microsoft Word, like,
So the Microsoft Office Suite is available.
and it comes on all the Macs?
Yes.
Okay, that's cool.
Mr. Miles will show you how you can get to that.
If you look up on the menu bar, if you take your cursor all the way to the top, the menu bar pops down. And up here on the very top of the menu bar is a little blue N. It's called the kiosk. If you click it and click install software, and go to all, and then
And it's actually
There.
usually like
Is it?
in this bar at the bottom of like
Yeah.
top downloads.
actually it is, it's right there, Microsoft Office. And so we have purchased the Microsoft Office suite for our MacBook. So it's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a large file. It takes some time to download.
Yeah.
So I recommend doing it maybe like overnight or when you're just gonna let the computer sit on a charger for a few hours.
And everything in the kiosk is already, it's free.
Yeah, it's
I
already
think
free.
that was kind of more
And-
my
and you
my
actually
question.
can
download
You have to purchase it.
Oh, yeah, no.
So it's already there.
I just bought my son a new computer, a Dell, so yeah, I'm still stuck at Windows at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Me?
What question do you have?
Okay, coming.
Go ahead.
You mentioned that you're at 3 elementary schools. Is it 3 each or 3?
No, and every elementary is assigned to a coach.
Got it.
So we spend most of our time at the secondary schools because that's where they're one-to-one, but we stay in contact with our elementary librarians and principals, and anytime teachers need help, they know they can reach out to us.
Got it. Okay.
And we try to visit them as often as we can.